Okay.
There I am.
So good morning, everybody. Happy to have you all join us today. We have another installment of our Dan Elzer series. Dan's going to be talking today about dominating your market. You know, we're going into the end of the year, coming up with some great strategies going into 2021 that allows you to truly take control of the market going into 2021. So Dan, I will turn it over to you, my friend.
Thank you, buddy. Good morning, everybody. And again, I'm getting to feel like part of the family, man. I really enjoy chatting with you guys. And today I'm going to take you down a little bit of a different path. You could say it's kind of old school meets new school meets opportunity. It's really going to be a little different, but I think if you can implement, I think a year from now, if you will implement what I'm going to give you, a year from now, when I'm up there visiting in real life, you're going to walk up to me and say, Dan, I own this subdivision. I own this market. So I'm going to start with the sharing of my screen. And remember, no arguing with your mouth shut. If you got a question, type it into chat. I will stop every once in a while to take questions. And I truly believe you will have questions on this one. Jeff, I'll get you the PDF of the PowerPoint as we close out this session this morning. So
Thank you.
It's called Dominate Your Market. So first, as always, I want to thank Newman Title and make sure again that you guys support your affiliates. Newman Title makes this possible for us, and I can't thank them enough for their support and desire to be a part of what we're doing with you guys. So remember Newman in your deals, folks. So objectives, here's your objectives. If you have a piece of paper, you can write these down. I want today to give you not only some training on skill and technique, but I want to give you a process by which you can literally dominate any market. So the objective is to take control of a marketplace. When I say a marketplace, I'm talking about, people always ask how big of a market. I'm talking 300, 500, 700. The biggest market I've seen that someone dominated this way was actually a 3,000 home subdivision. So it'll be more clear as I go through how big of an area. You want to become the go-to agent. You want to become the agent that every single seller in that marketplace, when they say they're going to sell their house, they'll say, well, of course, we're going to talk to Dan, and then maybe we'll talk to someone else. So that's what I mean about becoming that go-to agent. Generate consistent income. By doing this, you will become a listing-based agent. It just happens. You get to cherry pick your buyers, and most of the activity that you will do will happen all in one area. I brought this concept to my company decades ago. And out of a whole bunch of agents, I had 4 agents follow it religiously. And to this day, they still dominate that marketplace they're in. And one was a couple, husband-wife couple. They ended up selling their business to 2 young gentlemen coming out of University of Central Florida with real estate degrees, because they had such control of the marketplace, it was actually valuable enough to sell. So this all happens in one area. So what am I talking about? What is it? Well, it's an on-purpose people farming approach. So let me explain what people farming means. We've all heard of geographical farming. That's where you pick an area, you start mailing and immersing yourself, sending information to a marketplace. If you've done geographical farming, the statistics on it are in the single-digit returns. You have to do it for a very long time, and you will start to get returns. People farming, I don't know if I coined the phrase or whatever back in the early 90s, but statistics showed us that, and this is working from a sphere, that if you farmed people instead of areas, you had an exponential change in the return. Meaning, out of 100 people, you'd get 8, 9, 10 transactions per year out of them if you knew them minimally as an acquaintance. But you'd get 1, 2, 3% return on geographical farming. So this is an on-purpose people farming, but we're going to do it in a geographical area. So we're going to pick that area. We're going to be very proactive with the plan. I mean, this is a get up and work it every day thing, guys. And then it will have a stated purpose behind what we're doing. So before I get into what it is exactly, let me explain how it came to be. And I'm going to stop sharing because I got to see your faces. So if you've got your videos on, thank you. I got a whole screen of video. 1991, I owned my real estate company since 87. 91, we were a dominant listing force in the Seminole County area of just north of Orlando. I was in an area called Wekiva. It's a state park, 3 subdivisions. You had Wekiva Springs, you had Sable Point, and you had Sweetwater Oaks. Huge, big subdivisions, all had ski lakes and golf courses, semi-private, really, really nice area. I had my office right on that main road. Matter of fact, there was a curve in the road. If you didn't make the curve and you went off the road, you went through my sign. I had this big old sign, so you couldn't help but see us. So my father and stepmother retire and move down to Florida. I sell them our listing, Advantage Realty's listing. I'm the buyer side. One of my listing agents is the listing agent in Sable Point. My stepmother and I very, very close. I get her settled in, and I come by one day to see her, and she says, "Hey, Pete and Mary from Prudential came by and welcomed us to the subdivision." And I went, "Oh, they're good people. I know them." And I said, "That's really nice that they did that." She goes, "I told them, I said, you're our agent. Do you know who we are? I'm an Elzer, and they own." And they're like, "Oh yeah, we know Dan. Everything's great." And then I'd come by again, to see my dad, and they'd say, "Oh, Pete and Mary came by." I'm like, "Oh, that's nice to hear." One Thanksgiving, I'm having dinner with them, and my stepmother goes, "Funny thing happened." I said, "What's that?" They said, "We got an anniversary card from Pete and Mary." And I went, "Lovely." And then my stepmother says this to me: "The weird thing is we didn't get one from you." Now, let me explain what Pete and Mary have. Now, this is a subdivision back in the 90s that averaged $300 and something thousand. There are probably 2,000 homes in Sable Point, and Pete and Mary controlled 72% of the listing inventory in that subdivision. They could ride their bike to high 6-digit income. Never had to leave the subdivision. They did more business. Now you think about back in the 90s, they were doing $7, $8, $9 million in the 90s in one subdivision. They were the go-to agent. Everyone said, "Oh, you got to call Pete and Mary. Oh, you can talk to Dan's company too or something, but you got to call Pete and Mary." And they always ended the statement with, "Because they are the experts in Sable Point." So I stepped away and I went, holy moly, they're up to something. So I just did a little deep dive. I got looking at what they were doing, and I was like, okay, I want to take what they're doing and supercharge it. I want to turn it into a program that any agent that has the right tenacity, the right go get them, can go do what they've done, but even better. So that's how this came about. Being told by my stepmother that these people sent her an anniversary card and she didn't get anything from me was about the biggest gut punch I ever got in my life. And it was a wake-up call. So back to my presentation for you. That's how this came to be. So why does this process always work? Well, it's real simple. If you look at the statistics from the National Association of Realtors over the last decades, here's what you'll learn. If you look at the seller side of the buyer-seller survey, 49% of sellers that sold their home, when asked how they found their agent, 49% said they went to a friend, to an acquaintance, or to a family member for a referral. So that's half of sold listings on average in the United States are already accounted for by the seller not looking for an agent, the seller going to a friend or an acquaintance or a family member and say, "Who should I use?" 23% of sellers that sold their properties told the National Association of Realtors they found their agent to list and sell their house because of a previous experience with a professional. So when we take those two, put them together, That means 72% of listings that sell on average know where they're going to find their listing agent. So let me couple with that another stat from the Association of Realtors. They found that 80% of people that closed on a house could not remember their agent's name inside of 1 year. Let me say that again. Over 80% of people we did business with can't remember your name inside of 1 year if you're not properly following up with them. So let me go backwards here. If 72% of people that sell their house want to go either to a friend, acquaintance, family member, or an agent they did business with, but you're not doing your job, you're in the 80% of them forgetting you. So let me make it clear. I was in this business, as I told you. I was the single worst agent my first year. I was the single worst owner my first 6 months. You could not have done this job worse than me. So I'm never preaching at you like I am better. I am making you aware of something. If you're not talking to your people routinely, you miss out on 72% of the listings. And then if you wonder, where's the listings? Why do these same people always get the listings? Because they figured this out and they stay in touch with people and they come to them. So I took these stats and I said, how do I take this thought that I had from this Pete and Mary people, and I take the statistics, and how do I turn this into a guaranteed dominant market force anywhere you want to go? Now, here's the attitude you need. You got to be passionate. You got to love what you do. Now, when I say passionate, I am not saying that you are a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week agent. That to me is the recipe for loss and for failure. What I'm saying here is you're a 50, 55-hour a week, 5.5 day a week professional, and you're passionate about it. You have tenacity. Look that up if you're not clear on it. Tenacity is that you will never, ever, 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 ever quit. You know, you can read book after book after book of people that were one step away, one punch away, one swing away from greatness and quit. Said, oh, this isn't working. Tenacity is my best friend. Never let failure get the last word in your life. Always swing one more time when you fail. So you have to be tenacious. You have to have a desire to meet people. It's a funny thing. I'll talk to agents sometimes and I'll go, you know, you should get on the listing side. They're saying, well, yeah, I don't really like the listing side. I said, why? And I boil it down and they literally say this without saying it this way. Well, I really don't like people. And it always cracks me up. You're in real estate and you pretty much admitted to me in a 30-minute conversation that you don't like people. You're in the wrong business. You got to love to meet people. You have to be curious as heck. You got to be that child mentality that I want to get to know you. I want to know about you, but I'm not there to be abused by you. I'm there to become the expert in the marketplace to you. So I got to have that desire. And this is the one, if I could just open everyone's head and pour it in, you have to believe you are the best. Here's a question I'll ask out loud sometimes. I might even did it a year ago when we were together live. I always like to ask people, who is the best person? If I had a house to sell in your market today, who's the best person for me to contact to do the job? Bob's got his hand up. Want me to tell you what I hear and see in its crowds when I say, who's the best person for me to list it with? Guys, let me share again. Look at me. Look at me. This is what people do in crowds. These are real estate professionals. I go, guys, I need to know. If I have a property in your market, the place that you consider yours, and I need to sell it, who's the best person? I hear people do this. What are you looking for? Are you looking for the best person for me to list with? I mean, literally, that means that your mind doesn't immediately go, I am the best. See, here's the problem in real estate. You are your own advocate. If you don't believe you are the best person to get the job done, neither will they. As a speaker, when I started speaking, Jeff knows this, I did a lot of work with Realogy, the brands. And I was sitting, I'm a new speaker, and I'm sitting at a big get together of speakers for Realogy. And I'm kind of very proudly talking about my new programs and what I'm doing. And a lady at the end of the table goes, you know what, Dan? you really think you're the best speaker out there, don't you? And I responded without hesitation. I said, I do. I believe there's no one better than me. And she goes, that's quite arrogant. And I looked at her and I said, and I hope that you believe you're the best as well. Now, I didn't say this to her, but this is what I wanted to say. Because if you don't believe you're the best, when someone asks for the best, what do you say? Give Dan a call? I mean, think about that, guys. If I don't believe I'm the best, it will show in my body language. It will show in my tonality. It will show in my actions. Literally, if a house goes up for sale in a market that you call yours, you should be not upset. You should be downright ticked off. How in the world did that house go up for sale and it doesn't have my name in front of it? That's literally the feeling of being the best that I believe you have to have if you're going to succeed. So that's what I mean about that there. Now, the last thing is, and this is a tough one, you have to be driven, underline that, circle it, to take action. Now, what does that mean? Driven to take actions means that you wake up every day, and if you're not taking action, your subconscious is bothering you. Your subconscious is saying, hey, you know what? Now, this is me talking to Dan, so don't anyone misread what I'm about to say. You know what, Elzer? You're a loser. You're sitting here looking for reasons to not take action. It means you're a loser.
Not a loser.
I literally said that to myself.
Not important to me anymore.
Make sure you're muted, or unless you want everyone to hear what you're saying. Now, this is me. Again, guys, I am not in no way, shape, or form trying to tell you to say that to yourself. I'm just letting you know how I looked at myself. I chose the profession of real estate. I almost went bankrupt in the beginning because I didn't want to go out and take action. So I sat there. So I would have a talking to myself. I would go, dude, get with it. What's your problem? Take action. And every time I did, I'd fill up my calendar. I would get business. I would make things happen. Every time I was wondering what was happening, I could turn back to action and go, you know what? You've been sitting around waiting for a while. You haven't been creative. You haven't been tenacious. So I share with you these attitudes because out of 70 plus people that I've taught this to in my own company, I only had 4 of them go do it. But all 4 of them succeeded and had a business for decades after doing this. So it is critical that you have these attributes within you. Now, step 1 to do this, pick a neighborhood. Now, don't get into paralysis of analysis here, but the neighborhood has to have a few things. The first thing is you got to like it. I mean, you got to look at it and go, man, if you're not living in that neighborhood, you want to live in that neighborhood. I mean, this is, I love this. When you pick that marketplace, if you don't love it, if you don't like it, if you don't see yourself living there, or if you don't already live there, those attributes are hard to bring along. It's hard to get excited about a place you don't want to live. So I want you to love it. I want you to like it. I want you to be there. Now, the second is it has a good turn rate. So let me explain what turn rate means. If you take the average days on market of the sales of a community, okay, and then take the number of days in the year. So I take 365 and I divide it by the average days on market. You want to make sure that you're in the high 3 to 4 rate, meaning that inventory turns over 3-4 times a year in that market. If it doesn't, all your work will make you the dominant agent. There just won't be enough inventory. So I want to make sure that I get a good turn, that it's a large enough base and that things turn at less than 90 days in the worst markets, So I always have a 3 to 4 turn rate. So my efforts will pay me dividends. It has to have a price point that will give me a return on my investment. That means I need to make sure that the hard work that I put in, every time I close a deal, that I'm making the money that I want for the effort, energy, and time that I invest. You know your prices. You just have to make sure that you're in the meat of the market with a turn rate, that you'll get a return on this. Second, part 2 is you have to have a proactive prospecting approach. This is where people start to get a little nervous. I can't be the go-to agent if I'm afraid to talk to the people that blatantly have a need in my marketplace. So first, let's look at expireds. Now, in the market we're in right now, if you pick a decent market with a turn rate, there's not going to be many expireds currently. There will be expireds again, folks. You know, I've lived through enough boom markets. Expireds come back. REOs come back. Short sales come back. They always cycle around. So I need to be skilled on expireds. So let me give you a couple thoughts about expireds if you want to write them down. When I go to an expired listing, I know that they're upset. And I know that if they want to sell, they're usually miffed and befuddled, if you will, on why the home didn't sell. So my approach to an expired is never to relist them. My approach to an expired is to find out why the home didn't sell. So I got James right there in front of me on the video right now. So if I was calling James, I would call him and say, hey, James, I see your home's no longer being offered for sale in the multiple listing service. Did you still want to get it sold? And if he's like, yes, my offer would be, I'd like to come by and go through an analysis that I have to pinpoint why it didn't sell the first time. Would you have some time to do that? Now, people always go, why do you approach it that way? Well, I approach expireds from a consultative approach because watch if I do it traditionally. James, I see your house didn't sell. Do you still want to get it sold? Yes, I'd like to come over and share with you what I can do better or what I'm able to do or what we can do to get your home sold. Now, the problem with that approach, having been someone who's made thousands of these calls, is most of the time the seller will then engage you and say, well, what will you do differently? And then I get into presenting over the phone. Well, James, we have great exposure through, working with such and such. And he goes, you know what? My other agent had that too. Because remember, they're mad, they're upset. So all of a sudden I'm in a battle on the phone now to get the appointment. And we're haggling over my marketing plan when I shouldn't even be talking about it yet. So watch this. If I say to Jim, so I'd like to come over, do an analysis, pinpoint why your home didn't sell. We have some time tonight, or is tomorrow better? And he goes, well, what will you do differently than my other agent? Can anyone tell me what Dan will say to that? I don't know, because I haven't done my analysis yet. So I don't get in the argument. So Dan, what are you going to do differently? You know what, Jim, I don't know because I haven't seen your home or done the analysis yet. Now, if you remember my rules of the game, it's don't stop talking without asking a question. So whenever he responds to me, what are you going to do different? I'm going to go, I don't know. I haven't seen the home or done my analysis yet. So would you have some time this evening, or is the weekend better to do this? Now I'm going to give you a really, really cool way of getting it expired. So make sure you can write this down. Jim goes, you know what, Dan? No, thanks. You know what, Dan? No, thanks. Here's my response for expireds every time they blew me off. Hey, Jim, before I go, may I ask you one more question? It never failed me. No matter how mad someone was or tried to get rid of me. You know what, Dan? We're fine. We're going to list with someone else. We already know what we're going to do. Every time they did that to me, I came back and said, you know what, Jim? Before I go, may I ask you one more question? And they would always say, sure. Do you know why the home didn't sell the first time? And 90% of the time they went, no. And then I would come back and say, that's what my analysis will do. It will pinpoint what went wrong. So when you do relist, you won't make the same mistake. Can we get together tonight, or is tomorrow better? You got to be an idiot not to want to know why your house didn't sell when you just admitted you don't know why your house didn't sell. So what I'm getting at is we can get deeper in this as expireds come up. I've got a lot of good content for this I can share with Mark, but I got to be brave enough to go after every expired if I'm going to do this. So that's one. Two, I got to call every FSBO. See, I can't dominate. I can't be the dominant agent. I can't be Pete and Mary if I don't, in the subdivision I'm working, if I don't hit every FSBO and expired, I mean, shoot, I'm not the dominant agent. I'm not the go-to agent. I'm not the expert. I'm like everyone else. So a FSBO comes up, they hear from me. We make an assistance approach to the FSBO. Hey, Jim, I see you're trying to sell your home by owner. I'd like to come over and share with you a system I've put in place to help for sale by owners succeed without listing. Can I come by and share it? Look, Dan, we're going to sell it ourselves. I know, but if I could give you some tips to make it go faster, would you be up for it? This is Dan. I'm the expert in the market here. And then I go in and I talk to him. 75% of FSBOs list. All I got to do is get in front of a FSBO and hang out enough. 3 out of 4 times they're going to list, and I'm probably the one that's going to take that listing. So I got to be brave enough to do those 2 things. Now, the other thing that you have to be brave enough to do is every once in a while, just go out and talk to people. Knock on doors, share information. Remember, you're the expert. These things just sold. These things just came on the market. This just happened in the marketplace. I'm just, I'm the expert here in the Wekiva market. I'm just letting everybody know. So you're not out there going, give me your listing, give me your, buy a house from me. You're out there as the expert sharing information. It creates conversation and you get business. So this is the proactive approach. Once a week, I'm in that subdivision doing something proactively, FSBOs, expireds, canvassing. And I know it's COVID time, guys, so don't anybody hit me right now and say, but you can't do it in COVID. COVID will go away. Matter of fact, Pfizer hopefully will be making that go away here shortly. The other part of prospecting is our digital approach. Now, digital, guys, in chat, I want you to open chat up and put a Y and hit enter if you're aware of or are involved with nextdoor.com. Okay, a lot of you. I got a Y. I'll give you the Y. I'll never leave you hanging. Okay. If you live in the marketplace that you're trying to dominate, then you can join nextdoor.com. You have to be somewhat geographically close to or within a marketplace for nextdoor.com to let you join. When I talk about digital prospecting, I'm talking about being, again, the expert. I'm not going to get on nextdoor.com and go, who needs a realtor? No, I'm going to go on nextdoor.com, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to post consumer-friendly advice. Meaning every time something happens with the marketplace, with the Federal Reserve, with interest rates, I'm going to post, hey guys, just read an amazing article. If you're thinking of refinancing or doing something in real estate, I think you'll want to read this article. If you got any additional questions about it, I'd be happy to answer them. So what I'm doing is I'm becoming the knowledge base, not the person like every other agent posting listings and asking for business. I want to become the expert. So nextdoor.com gives me a great platform to become the go-to agent for any questions, concerns about real estate. LinkedIn is another way of building that. If I don't use LinkedIn for my agent interactions, I leave that to Facebook and the others, I want to build my LinkedIn with people that live in the community, small business owners in that community, clergy, Congress people or state or local commissioners. So I want my LinkedIn built around the marketplace so I can do the same thing on LinkedIn. I can become a source of expert opinion and sharing of expert market data on my LinkedIn. The other thing that LinkedIn does for me is every time a FSBO or expired pops up in the market, I can search that person's name through my LinkedIn and see if I have a friend that's a friend with them. So I can see Sandy and James right now. So let's say Sandy's house goes expired and James owns the, let's say he owns the dry cleaner, the end of the main road of the subdivision. And James and I are buddies. And so I go in and I ran Sandy's name because her house expired and she pops up as a second to James, or excuse me, as a second to me through James. I go by the store. I go, hey, Jim. He goes like, what's going on, Dan? I said, hey, do you know Sandy? And he's like, yeah, she's a customer here. I said, well, her house just expired, and this is the market I dominate. I'd really love to talk to her. Could you give me a referral? Now let's go back to the stats I gave you. 49% of people list with someone that they're referred to through a friend or an acquaintance. So if I use LinkedIn, I turn around and I get Jim to tell Sandy, Dan's amazing. He's been a customer forever. You might want to talk to him. And all of a sudden, she's like, that feels comfortable because that's what humans do. And voila, I don't have to cold call Sandy. Sandy accepts my call because of the referral. So I'm using digital to become that expert in the market, but also to force feed some referral-based stuff. Now, when I say be active on social media, this would be posting about the community, spring fling, the Easter egg hunt, the fall Halloween thing, but also sharing data, sharing solds, introducing new people that I might have sold into the neighborhood, but being more of an expert and less of I'm prospecting you directly. Again, I'm building this over time. I'm not trying to become rich tomorrow. I'm trying to set this up where it will be mine for years. So I'm going to stop right now and I'm going to unshare. Does anyone have a question so far? If you got a question, you can put it in chat, or you can just unmute and say, hey, Dan, I don't care. A question, a thought, a concern, your brain's going, this ain't right.
Hey, Dan.
Yes.
This is Virgil.
Hey, Virgil.
I'm kind of new to the real estate, even though I've had my license for a while. So it's a little hard for me to go in and tell somebody I'm an expert. I can tell them that I have experts behind me that can help me, but how do I approach that then?
Thank you, Virgil. First, I'm going to reach in your brain and pull out that block you have. You have a real estate license, correct? Shake your head. I see you. You work for an amazing company, correct? Shake your head. You're a human being that has done business in life, yes? You're already the expert, my friend. See, here's the thing. To be the expert of a marketplace, it means that you understand the market and you have the resources to answer any question that comes at you. When we believe that we have to be most knowledgeable, most experienced to be an expert, man, I want you to think of people out there. If you've ever had an attorney, I've had multiple attorneys in 30 plus years. I go to my attorney, who I'm paying a huge amount of money to, and we go over my problem. And how many people have been to an attorney? Raise your hand, attorney. Have you ever noticed they got that yellow pad? You know that? Theirs is always yellow. They got that pad. How many people seen that pad? Raise your hand. Guess what they do whenever you talk to them? They write on the what? The yellow pad. When you get all done talking to them, they go, you know what? Let me do some research and I'll get back to you. And then they leave and charge you more. And I always say this, when they graduated from law school, they gave them a disc and they put the disc in the computer and they type what we said and it tells them what to do. Then they call us back and pretend like they're smart. Virgil, what I'm getting at is the smartest person I've ever met was the one that talked the least and asked the most. But whenever we are the person to become the expert, we have a fear. I had it as well. That's why I failed my first year in business. I said I was a cop, not a real estate agent. I really can't be the expert yet. And I found out, you know what a miss I had in life, because over the 33 years, I've turned more new agents into highly successful agents than experienced agents, because experienced agents have a lot of bad habits. The only thing new agents have is a fear. So you are the expert because you can go to Mark, you can go to Bob, you can go to your manager, you can go to Jeff, you can reach out to me. The best answer as an expert is, that's a great question. Let me do a little research on that and I'll get back to you. So please, 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 nobody on this call ever believe you can't go be the expert, whether you're a day in the business or you're 100 years in the business. Does that help, Virgil? We got to break that fear. You don't have to worry. You got plenty of resources. Anybody else?
Virgil, let me put it to you this way. The state is giving you a license to practice real estate. They think you're a professional and they think you're capable of selling real estate. That's all you need.
Exactly.
You're a licensed realtor. The state trusts you. Everybody else does too.
Anyone else? Okay, I'm going back, diving back in because I don't get to see everybody when I'm in this. Okay, so that's 3. Now the 4th thing is kind of fun, because the 4th thing is become active and visible in the community. So what does that mean? Man, stay on their Facebook page, visit any place that they post, if you don't live there, drive through the community. If they got a reader board, man, if they're having a homeowners meeting, go to it. If they're having an event, go to it. Find a way to be visible and interested. And Virgil, by the way, this also helps you be smarter than anybody in that community when you start attending everything. Man, that's what I'm going to do. The other thing I'm going to do is volunteer. Now I'm going to share with you one of my agents that succeeded at this. I'm going to stop sharing again. She took Wakaiva subdivision where I currently live. And we have an elementary school in the middle of this subdivision, 3,500 homes, got our own elementary school. There's even a tunnel under the road, the main road. So the people that live on one side, the kids can walk and go under the tunnel and not cross the road. I mean, it was really set up nicely. So when I did this with her, I said, you know, get involved in the fall festival and all the things, but also volunteer. So she went to the school, got her background done, and became the volunteer that helped kids go from standing behind the yellow line to getting in mommy and daddy's car. You guys know what I'm talking about there at the elementary school? And she wore a t-shirt that had our name and logo of the real estate company on it every time she did it. Who better to trust with your real estate than the person taking care of your little kid getting in the car? She killed it, guys. I mean, she met all the moms and all the dads, and oh, here's little Johnny, here's little Mary, you know, have a great day. If I can be of help, just give me a ring. They'd ask her questions, and I had to get her to not try to close everybody, be the expert. They ask a question. The most important thing is an appointment. You're too busy putting kids in the car. They ask a question and say, you know what, Bill, let me get your number. Let me call you back with that, or let me set a time I can come by the house and we'll go over that. And she started getting good at turning questions into face-to-face appointments, and she became the dominant player there. So volunteer and get in front of people. Sponsor. Now this costs money, so you have to be careful. My agents that have done this and have become very, very successful become very, very visible in sponsoring a lot of stuff in the community. But this is after they've really embedded themselves. You know, their name is on everything. Every banner that goes up, we're about to do this, sponsored by. You know, you really become that person giving back into that marketplace. And always, always, always in what I call career apparel. If you haven't gone to Land's End, or I don't know, Jeff, if you guys have a clothier that you work with, but man, get that logo printed, professionally looking on as many things as possible. Now, Mary in my office, she wore a big gaudy shirt that had our logo and our name. I mean, that t-shirt, you couldn't miss it. It wasn't done really, you know, small and pretty no, it was a freaking billboard on her chest, but everybody knew who she was. So be in career apparel when you're playing this part. So you're identified to your company. Remember, people forget people within a year. Every time they see you, you're creating a marketing impression of being in that logo career apparel and being the expert. So that's number 4. Now, number 5. Now this one always freaks people out, so listen to me carefully. Welcome new residents into that defined area, regardless who sold them the house. Let me say that again. Welcome new residents into the neighborhood, regardless who sold them the house. What did Pete and Mary do? First time I went to see my mom and dad after they moved in, they go, oh, Pete and Mary from Prudential Florida Realty came by and gave us a calendar and welcomed us to the neighborhood. And I was like, lovely. I said, did you tell them? And my stepmom's like, oh yeah, I told them, you know, you're our agent, but they were just helpful. You know, they told us some stuff about the market. And I'm like, oh my God, they're already hooked, my stepmom. See, I didn't go to see my stepmom, and trust me, I know all of you follow up regularly with every client you ever had. I'm just going to make that assumption right now. But most agents stop talking to them as soon as the check cashes. See, these people not only stayed in touch with the people they sold houses to, or sellers they sold their house, everyone that moved in that community, they showed up. And they said, welcome to Sable Point. My name's Pete. This is my wife, Mary. We just wanted to be here, kind of the welcome van. Here's how you can reach us. If you have any questions about the community, the HOA, or the country club, be happy to answer those questions and make you comfortable, you know, blah, blah, blah. And then by golly, every 3 months, they just happened to be coming by on their bicycle and would sit down and talk to my stepmom. They had it down like a science. Welcome new residents within the first week of them arriving. You can't go, oh, I need to get to them, and 4 months in, you go, hey, welcome. No, you got to do it while they're unpacking, guys. And you got to do it with a servant heart, that you're there to help. You're not there to get business. They just moved in. You're there to help. Leave them something valuable. Now, I'm going to tell you what we ended up focusing in on. Every one of the 4 people that did this, Mary included, that dominated the market, what they focused on was giving them a laminated contacts card and went over it with them and said, hey guys, you might have questions about the HOA. You might have questions about, we have 3 providers of internet. You might have, and voila. So they handed them a laminated card, and guess what was the bottom contact? It wasn't logoed. It wasn't all fancy like, Russell Real Estate. No, it was the expert in the marketplace, Dan Elzer, Russell Real Estate. Very subtle, but it was on that card. The feedback that the agents gave me when we went to that, people thought that was gold. Oh my God, thank you. This will be so helpful. So if you get there in the first week and you hand them something of value and tell them, I'm here as a resource, I'm here as the expert. But we did business with a Coldwell Banker. Oh, they're amazing. That's a great company. You have to support and promote the company they worked with. You're just there as a servant. You're just there to go, hey man, I know how uncomfortable it can be moving in a new neighborhood. I'm here to answer questions for you. Offer yourself as the expert, because what we're doing here is we're slowly becoming their friend in real estate. Okay, now I'm going to unshare again and give you another example. Western New York had a big company. I was doing a program with them about, prospecting and getting business, getting listings. And I taught the 3-foot rule. I taught you guys that a long time ago. Someone gets within 3 feet of you, wear your career apparel and get into a conversation. Never fails. They'll look at your career apparel and say, oh, you're in real estate? You go, yes. And you got a 70% chance they go, how's the market? I mean, raise your hand if that's ever happened to you. Oh, you're in real estate? How's the market? So what's your talk track after that? Mine's always, oh, it's amazing. You know what? We're just really doing great right now, but we have one problem. We just have more buyers than we have people selling their house. Maybe you can help me. Who do you know that's thinking of selling? That's my go-to response every time someone asks me how the market is. So an agent who was new in the business, now there's 1,300 agents in this company that I'm doing this with. The next week I was there, she comes up to me and she's scared. She goes, Dan, I think I made a mistake. I go, why? She said, I was in, it was actually their grocery store up there. I forget, I think it's Wegmans or whatever. I was in Wegmans and guy was standing next to me. I had my career apparel on. So I started talking to him and I asked him, who do you know that might need to sell? And he goes, actually, I do. And the person said, I do. And she was like, now this is a new agent. She's kind of blown away going, oh, this isn't supposed to happen. I'm supposed to get no's. And this person's saying yes. And then the guy goes on to say, yeah, your company sold me this house about 18 months ago, but I just got notified I'm being transferred. So I have to sell. They're not helping me. So can you help me out? And she felt like she was stealing someone's business because she was new. So she said, oh, you bought your house through us? Yeah. What was the agent you worked with? And he said, oh, she was so sweet. She was kind. She was amazing. She had blonde hair. Could not remember the name of the person that he just described as amazing. There was proof positive to me that people forget your name. So she said, am I doing something wrong? Should I hunt down blonde people in the company and try to figure out who sold them the house? I said, no. Whoever the blonde person is the one that failed. They failed to stay in touch or they'd have another listing. You did the hard work. Trust me, they'll never even know that you did it. Sure enough, she took the listing, sold it. No one ever came up to her and said that was mine. Because trust me, whatever that agent was that didn't stay in touch was so urgent and running around with their hair on fire, they never realized that someone they did business with needed them again. So people will forget you if you don't stay in touch, but they will have needs again. Why make the job so hard to always be out looking or paying for business when over 72% of the business will come to you if you just talk to people? Back to my presentation. So that was 5. Now, number 6 is the follow-up. So the follow-up comes down to, for this to work, every time you meet somebody, you need to get from them permission to send information about real estate. It's really simple. I met Virgil, we're chatting. I go, Virgil, you know what? I have a small group of friends here in the community I send out information to. That's the key word, small group of friends, not a database, a small group of friends. Would you be interested in receiving that information? He says, yes. I'm going to ask, how would you like to receive it? I can email it to you or mail it to you. Now, all of the companies out there that will send real estate information have an email service and a snail mail service. Most agents go email because it's cheaper. The problem is if Virgil goes, Dan, I don't pay attention to the email. I get so much garbage. Just mail me it. I'll find it that way. If I put him in email, I no longer have him as a person I'm people farming. Because if he doesn't open the email, he doesn't get the contact. If he doesn't get the contact, he forgets who I am. So I ask everybody, do you want it by mail or email? Mail it to me. Boom. He goes on the mail one. I call my company, personal marketing group, whoever you use, and say, hey, add Virgil, here's his information. Next month, make sure he's on my list of who gets the mail or who gets the email. So now everybody that I meet, not everybody in the community, this is why I'm forced to go meet people, starts to get a monthly follow-up. Visit once per quarter. Now, every one of my agents that did this, their visitation became their bicycle, guys. Now, I know you get the winters up there. We have the summers down here all the time. But they literally drove their bicycle to do 6 digits plus of income a year. All they did was pick a different segment and ride through that marketplace until they said hi and talked to everybody they knew. Then they moved on to the next one. So once a quarter, everybody saw and talked to them in the community, and they were always on their bike. And they were always saying hi. And again, this is for only the people that you have met in person. Do not default and go, this sounds great, Dan. So I've got 700 people in this community. I'm mailing all of them. No, that is not the program. The program has all that front end work, and the only people I'm mailing or emailing are the ones I've met. As I meet them, I build it more and more and more. I'm not just going to mass mail the place. And someone will ask, will it hurt to just mass mail? Yes, because you become junk mail in their eyes. When you know someone, you become information, update, a touch. When you don't know that person, you become junk mail. We all do it. You go to the mailbox, you sort your mail in 3 things: expected correspondence, people that you know, bills, and what's the last part? Junk. Don't be in the junk. Be in the expected correspondence. So moving forward, you got to make sure you have the passion and tenacity to do this, guys. It will not work if you're not passionate about it. I mean, it's just, I got to love it. I got to believe I'm the best. Pick a market, but don't overanalyze. I mean, I watch these people, well, Dan, I'm down to 2 markets. Oh gosh, I would have met 10 people already. Pick a market, swing the bat. Don't overanalyze it. As soon as you get that market, get involved in the community ASAP. That is your quickest way for visibility, is show up at the next HOA meeting, show up the next park event, show up at the next thing. Just be there. Wear your career apparel and smile, and you'll be well on your way to success. Make it a requirement that every morning you wake up, you hit Zillow, you hit the MLS, you look for new FSBOs and expireds in your market, and you're always driving or riding your bike through the market. So you see a sign pop up, you must call them. You can't go, I'm not going to call that one. No, then you're not the expert. Now you're cherry picking. No, you call and talk to everybody. Make sure you schedule time to make that drive through the marketplace to meet people. Once a week, you carve out an hour or 2, twice a week, but you want to be able to get through that market enough times in a 3-month period that you've touched and talked to everyone that you've met and met some new people. If you don't do that, then again, the numbers don't work. So let me give you some final thoughts, and then please ask questions about this, guys. I've done this with people. I've done it with other organizations, and the people that followed this process really kill it. Now, someone will ask me, Dan, how long does this take? This is a 12-month commitment. I say that again. This is a 12-month commitment. Everyone that I have that's had great success has one-offs here and there. They start getting some business. But everybody that did it as I've described, they're full-time in that one market by the end of a year. I mean, they're the ones. They're the people. I know from Dennis and Joan Blay, a couple that sold their business. They took on another subdivision, about 2,500 homes. They lived in the market. They rode their bike through it. They're the ones that sold. They got these two guys, and they were smart. I was honored. They actually came to me and asked my advice on it, but they were smart. First thing they did was one of the two gentlemen joined the team. So it was the husband and wife and one of them. The other one stayed in the background. The wife retired, and then the other one joined. So it was the husband and the two new guys. The husband retired, and it was just the two guys. Now, the second person in that group didn't want to follow the rules. So the gentleman who now does it and has the same market share that Dennis and Joan Blay had, fired basically his partner. He had a separation with his partner. And he's now doing it alone. His name's Jim. And he's got 65% of the market share of 3,500 homes, or 2,500 homes. So you have to keep doing it. There is no other way. There is no electronic way. This is about human nature. And the last thought, and then I'll open it up for questions, was that couple from Prudential, Florida, Pete and Mary, finally retired, which was a happy day in my office. But they also handed off their business. I know they handed off their business because they hit my mom and my stepmom and dad and introduced them to these two young guys. Said, hey, we're retiring. We've been working with these people. They're experts now in the market. These are the people you will go to. Those people did not walk the market, ride their bikes, hit the FSBOs. They just took the introduction and rode the wave. And in 6 months, they were no longer dominant. Guess who took over that market? Maureen in my office. I told her as soon as I saw them retiring, I said, Maureen, go work that one. She goes, but they're in there. I said, trust me, these young guys aren't going to do the hard work. Took her 18 months from it being Pete and Mary to being Maureen. Guys, it works every time it is implemented. You just have to have the tenacity and have a 12-month commitment. Thoughts, questions? Nobody? None of my management team?
Thoughts. I have thoughts for you. When I listen to you speaking and you talk about the plans, I hear all the mistakes that I make. And when I think about what you said about being an expert, or when you're asked by someone who's the expert in the market, my response would be, our Ridgeville office has a lot of great people in it. And I would never name myself. I'll end it there.
Well, Matthew, thank you for that. And I had that same curse. And you got to think about it this way. For all of you that might have that curse in you, when you go to a doctor, do you want someone who's arrogant and confident, or someone who's humble and amiable and uncertain? I'm going to tell you what happened to me. Under my left eye, I had an air nodule, like a BB-sized air pocket on my eyelid, and it would always fall off. It'd get, start to get big where I could start to see it. My eye would fall off. This weird thing I had. And all of a sudden it didn't fall off one time. It kept getting bigger and bigger. My wife and her best friend, they're yelling at me at dinner one time, go get it taken care of. You talk to people, you're in front of people. It looks weird. So I go to my GP. He refers me to an eye guy. I go see him, and the guy's looking at it, and he's looking at it. And I go, can you handle this? And he goes, so you want me to cut it off? I said, yeah. And he said, okay. He goes, I can cut it off, but your eye might droop. How many people hire that guy? Raise your hand. I ran out of that office. I go, are you freaking crazy? I run into a friend of mine who works for a plastic surgeon. She goes, come see my plastic surgeon. I go see this guy, most arrogant jerk in the world. I mean, he has his own office with his own surgical center. He doesn't take insurance. You pay him cash or he doesn't deal. I mean, he's incredibly successful, arrogant jerk. I sit down with him. He looks at my eye. He goes, what, you want it off? I said, yeah. And he goes, you want it off now? And I said, well, I got a question. He goes, what's that? I said, is my eye going to droop? He goes, what? And I said, the last doctor I went to said your eye might droop. He goes, please tell me he didn't say that. I go, he did. He goes, your eye won't droop. Do you want it off? I said, yeah. He goes, it's $2,500. Can you pay me with your credit card today? And I went, yes. He pushed me back, gave me a little shot, sliced the thing off. It's gone. Who do you want taking care of you? The arrogant jerk that thinks they're the best, or the guy that's being nice going, well, your eye might droop. Now, I bet you if we go talk to the eye droop guy, he ends up drooping eyes sometimes because he doesn't believe in himself. But this other guy believed in himself. I went in there full force. Guys, we have the resources. And Matthew, to that point, the mistake that we make to not be the expert is when we're out of our depth, we don't go to Mark, to Jeff, to Bob and go, I'm out of my depth. Let's get this right before I open my mouth. That's the only way you get in trouble, is not getting the help you need when you need the help. It's not a shame to go get help. But if you'll go get the help when you need it, and you'll operate confidently that if you don't know it, you know where to find it, you are the expert in real estate. Anybody else?
Yes, Dan.
Yes, ma'am.
How do we go about getting some of the expired information to contact people, phone numbers? I spend a lot of time trying to find people that way. And then the other day I couldn't find any. So I just mailed a handwritten card out to each one of them. Is there a better way to get a phone number?
No. I mean, there's the services like I do a lot of training with RedX. And if you're interested in RedX, I don't know if you guys use that, but if you're interested in it, go to my website, danelzer.com. I've got an affiliate link, but they'll knock off the $149 fee that they charge if you go through mine. But RedX has the way of cleansing a list and bringing you, oh, thank you, Lydia, you guys have it, bringing you that information. But here's what I always say to people about RedX. RedX doesn't create miracles. RedX just does the hard work. So if you go out and get with RedX, you might wake up in the morning and have the same results that you would have if you took 4 hours doing it yourself, Linda. So I always like to delegate for $100, you know, low valued time to someone else. So for everybody else, here's what I teach about expireds because of this now. I call it the 3-pronged approach. If I'm going to do this, I have to be tenacious. So my 3 prongs are: call if I can call. If I can't call, visit in person first thing in the morning. If no one answers, leave a logoed letter on the front door, one of those clear plastic hanger things. The reason I have the 3-pronged approach with expireds is, like I said, I work with RedX a lot. When I did a deep dive on expireds, the most motivated sellers relist within 48 hours. People that wait longer than 48 hours usually were not motivated to sell. So I want to be there in the first 48 hours. If I wait, or if I use snail mail instead of drop it off, they might get it day 3 and have already taken action. So that only leaves me with the people that really didn't need to sell. And then I get calls from people that want me to come list their house, but they won't clean it up. They won't price it right. They won't do the right thing. So what I'm working on here is a 48-hour time span. So I wake up, I run my expireds. If I've got RedX, they've done it for me. There's 1 or 2 numbers I can call, I call them. The rest of them, I'm on my horse, I ride over to their house, knock on their doors. Odds are they're not going to be there. I then leave the letter on the door. Now, sometimes I have to think. I haven't gone through the front door of my house in 17 years. We have a side entry, big side entry garage. So if I look at a house and go, if I lived here, I probably don't go to the front door. I leave it on the access door on the side of the house. I want to pick where the person's going to walk through. So now think what happens. If I can call and I leave a message, because I don't get you live, I still have to drive over, knock, and leave the letter. So if you come home and you're a motivated seller and you're ticked off that your home didn't sell, and there's a phone call from me going, "Hi, I'm Dan with Russell Real Estate. I noticed your home didn't sell. I've got an analysis to pinpoint why it didn't sell. If you're interested, give me a call." And then they go, "Wait a minute, this same guy on the letter, hi, I see your house didn't sell. If you want to find out why, please give me a call. I do an analysis to pinpoint why." I'm now sitting there going, this guy got up in the snow, called me, came over to the house, knocked on the door and left something. I'm a motivated seller. Who am I going to follow up with? Dan.
Absolutely.
So it's a three-pronged approach, Linda, because more and more we can't find them. Does that help?
I will guarantee you this,
Thank you.
Linda, if you're working for sale by owners and expireds, 95% of the realtors are trying to call, send a letter, and do everything else. There's an old adage, see the people, see the people, see the people. Get in your car, go and do what Dan just said, because you will be one of very few that has the gumption and the business sense to go do it.
Very short list, guys.
Sounds good.
Very, very short list. I got time for one more question if someone has it.
Dan, what if my market that I want to work is being like totally dominated already by a big power hitting team or a power hitter?
Great question.
Thank you, Jim. I used to have that fear until one day I was on a listing appointment with one of my agents, because I always went on listing appointments with my agents when I was building my company. And Sally, this woman named Sally that worked for Better Homes and Gardens, dominated the market. It was Lake Mary Hills. Everywhere you look, Sally, Sally, Sally. We get this appointment. I walk in there. First thing out of the mouth of the seller, Jim, was, "Why should we do business with you and not Sally?" Now, never get on your heels, guys. I'm the doctor, they're the patient. As soon as she said that to me, I didn't go into, feature dumping or throwing up on her. And I said, "May I have 10 minutes of your time? I think I can make it clear why we're the better person to do business with." She's like, "Okay." And so I go through the setup, may I explain to you how I work? Went right into the visual presentation. She stops me at that point. She goes, "Oh, just so you know, I wouldn't hire Sally if she was the last breathing real estate agent." I went, "Why?" She said, "That woman drives her Cadillac through our neighborhood like she's the queen and owns it. She disrespects us all the time. I have no patience for that woman." You know what I found out? People that dominate a market that don't keep doing what I'm sharing with you start to take it for granted when those business comes to them. So Jim, I would pick that market and I would go after it. The only reason I would stop going after it is if I learned that they went to Dan's Dominate Your Markets class and they're doing everything I'm saying, it would be hard to penetrate them. But if they're just a dominant team and they're taking it for granted, it's the easiest people to steal market share from.
And Dan, there's a lot of people that fall into that mindset and it slowly starts drifting away and other people start dominating that market. I thought it was really interesting when you touched on the referral percentages in the beginning here. Where does an average seller find their agent? And those stats, even with all the noise in the real estate industry, those stats have stayed rather consistent over the last 20 years. And I find that very interesting. No matter how many people try to penetrate this market or different, technology companies or different avenues, it still comes down to people want to work with the people they already know and trust.
Jeff, let me jump in a second. I want to tell you, whenever I was putting this together, Jeff, your leadership team and I were discussing this concept, guys, before we decided on it. And it's been a while since I taught this. So I went back into my archives to find some data. And to his point, I had to change the stats by 1%. Because I went into my latest buyer seller survey and it was 73% 2 years ago. It's 72% today, to show you how consistent that number has been. So it doesn't move much, guys. And if you have an on-purpose approach, you will own the marketplace, and it just becomes easy. But you got to segment time. You can't stay urgent and let them tell you what to do. You've got to have sacred time to go start doing the purposeful, manage the chaos, do the purposeful, and you'll turn things over to where you're in charge of your life. Well, guys, I got to get on. I appreciate it, Jeff, Bob, Mark, and the team. Go out, kick some butt, go dominate some markets, and I'll see you next time around.
Thank you,
Thanks so
Dan.
much, Dan. Thanks
Dan.
everybody for joining us.
You.